Ahu, Ho-Chunk Raja, Wakunja Hinga Dana. Welcome to the American Indian Movement Grand Governing Council radio show. This is Woman of the American Indian Movement Sister Up show. And I want to introduce Lisa Bellinger, has such a long and rich history with the movement all through her family and her Red Schoolhouse and all those things. She is now the executive director of the National American Indian Movement sanction group. And I just want to say this is so exciting, Lisa, to have you on and all these warriors. And I really want to turn this show over to you and to your sisters. And I really am excited to watch this in a good way, Lisa. Pini Gigi for doing this.
Aho, miigwech, chimigwech, Robert. This is exciting. I'm like totally thrilled at the opportunity to really look at where we are with the American Indian Movement now. There's been so many changes. You know, you haven't heard a whole lot except for what AIM has been doing on the front lines here in Minneapolis since the George Floyd incident. Since we lost George Floyd, and we had to pull together and hit the streets again as American Indian Movement Patrol out of Minneapolis, like where we started 52 years ago, going on 52 years. And so this, you know, I'm really, really honored. And yes, I do have a long history with the American Indian Movement. Grew up with AIM, was there around from the very beginning, been part of protests. We caravanned and marched to Stillwater State Prison to bring awareness and to demand rights for our American Indian brothers and sisters who are incarcerated. I've participated at the LCO Winter Dam occupation takeover. Way back before Wounded Knee. There was a lot of events and activities happening here within the occupation of the Naval Air Force Base. And then all the work that happened, you know, right here on the ground in the community and working for our people and building systems and trying to break down those barriers with the local counties. You know, we're getting support and help and just human needs, basic human needs, you know, having access to food, to medical, legal support, monitoring police interaction with our people. So there's been a lot of work over the years, and AIM has grown, AIM has moved across the country. And this evening I was reminded, you know, and something that I always like to say is that I think I am who I am today and have been placed in this role because I'm a product of this movement. I didn't go to Red Schoolhouse, and there's a reason for that. My mom worked downstairs at Red Schoolhouse, so I went to Heart of the Earth. And I am a graduate of Heart of the Earth, and I am a graduate of Native American Educational Services College and American Indian College. It wasn't necessarily AIM, but it is a product of our people and our community. And went on to get a degree in education with a master's with an emphasis on Indigenous thought and worldview. So, but the one thing that brought us along our way, and I think that has held us strong, and that we recognize and honor, is that AIM is first and foremost a spiritual organization, and we are driven by our teachings of our ancestors. We're driven by our power and our connections from our ancestors. So with that in mind, before we get going, we want to start with a prayer. And the ladies I looked at the agenda, and you know how if you snooze, you lose. I looked at the agenda, it said opening prayer, me. I put in other names. But as of tonight, the final, it came back with me. So I will honor that. And I'm thankful and really honored, you know, that the women here that we'll be sharing screen with will have asked me to do this prayer. So, Mishomas Nakomasanan, Bijuwains Mina Wawa, Muha Wakan we indigo. Wabajation do dame, Gasaga squad Jimmy Cog and Donjaba, Minawaga, Kabi Kong and Dianda Nungum, Gagi Gay and Ishnabe, Made Quay and Dow. The Shumas Nokomas and on Chimiguachway and Don name Mino Gijigat Mino Mikana, Mishomas Nokomas and on Miguach Chimiguach Gagi Gay Ni Made Bimarisi win. Mishomas Nokomas and on Chimiguach Ganawaba Mid Gakana Nishnami Oma Nungum ni Yudi ni Mama King. Ajwe Mishnag J Money Do, Ajwe Mishnag J Money Do, Ajwe Mishnag J Money Do, Ajwe Mishnag J Money Do. So miigwech for that, and I'm going to ask if we can bring on our co-host tonight, Ramona. Is she coming on? I got to look at my. There we go, Ramona Woods. Buju, Ramona. I'd like to introduce, and one of the beautiful things about this show, and I have to plug in, hold on. Poor computer. One of the great things about this show is we're wanted to start with our strongholds of AIM, a lot of the original AIM women, but it's just taken some time to recruit them all and gather them all. So we're going to start with leadership within the women leadership within the American movement as we are today. And when I was asked to be executive director, I was kind of nervous about it, but, being raised in the movement, when you're, my AIM family asked me, step up and say, I'm honored for this role. And I received a lot of messages on my Facebook and my Messenger and people texting me, like they're like, this is so amazing. It's so beautiful that AIM has put a woman in leadership position. And, we've always had strong women in the movement. And I can't say why, or I guess we'll find that out more as we go into our AIM Stronghold women show. But for now, to be placed in a leadership, an official capacity leadership position, I have received so many women that have said right on, and it's about time, and that the women are the backbone, and that all of that. And so today's show is really highlighting, it's not just me. There's many sisters out there. And if I can't figure something out, we have a network here that we can lean on each other. And so I want to give a little background about Ramona. I might say Mona, sorry.
Okay.
Mona is a Mohawk from Kahnawake, Quebec, but she lives in Pennsylvania. She was originally a member of AIM Central Texas down there. And she's now presently the secretary of the AIM Woodlands Territory Support Group out of Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
And she is a co-founding member of the Coalition of Natives and Allies and founder of the Little Blue Sky Foundation. So I'd like to turn it over, and we're going to ask Mona to host today's show, co-host with me. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mona.
Nyawa Lisa. Sega Sewa Kwega. Ramona, Yurihaha Woods, Yoduts. Hunkwe Kahnawake, Dewaga Dujum. Welcome to the American Indian Movement Grand Governing Council radio talk show, the Women of AIM Sister Up series. We plan for this to be the first in a number of shows where we highlight the history, the work, the accomplishments, and the strength of the women in the American Indian movement. I would like for us to open with the AIM song, if we have that geared up.
Yeah!
In this edition, I would like to put names to faces of only some of the women we currently have serving in AIM leadership roles today, as well as the good work they are doing to help the people within our communities. These women serve in officer capacities in sanctioned chapters and support groups across the United States and Canada. Before we begin the introductions, I would like to acknowledge Marge Crowe-Eppard, who was unable to join us for the program this evening. Marge serves as the director of the American Indian Movement Foothills Central California Support Group. We will be honored to have her as one of our guests in an episode in the near future. Our first guest I would like to introduce you to is Donna Fanboyle, who is the co-director of the American Indian Movement Woodlands Territory Support Group, which serves the people of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. Donna, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you have done in your territory? Unmute. Unmute.
Sorry about that. So yes, I'm Donna Fanboyle. I am the co-founder of the Coalition of Natives and Allies and the co-director of AIM Woodlands Territories. And I have had a great love for the American Indian movement for a very long time. And really admired all the work that they've done. And then I was just so proud when AIM actually came to my defense as I was battling my school district here in Pennsylvania, the Neshaminy School District. And I was, just so honored that they came to support me and that they surrounded me and protected me from my own community. So I've been working on the mascot issue here in the Neshaminy School District. Of course, they use the term Redskins, and it's been a rough battle. But I must say that through that, like I started that in 2012, and throughout that time, I've met so many good people. So I can say that that's the one thing that's really good that has come out of it, is that it's brought me to, this sisterhood, to the family of AIM, and with the coalition, so with the coalition, we have formed a educational program that we offer to school districts, so that when we go into these school districts, when we're asked to help, I'm sorry, I'm hearing something going on in the background. So when we were asked to help different communities with their mascot issues, we offer this educational program. So it's not just about the mascot issue, it's educational, because a lot of times you'll get we'll get people say to us, well, aren't there more important issues to deal with? And one thing that I have learned is that the mascot issue is so intertwined with the other issues, because if you are only seen as a caricature or an archaic stereotype, and if you can't solve this one issue that should be very easy to solve, because you're talking about educational institutions that are supposed to be protective of all students and all minorities, and if you can't get them to understand that what they're doing is discriminatory and racism, then how can you solve any other problems? Because you're supposed to be dealing with educated people that should understand this. And if they can't understand that, and they see you as invalid, and so you can't, it's going to make it very hard to fix other issues. So, I've learned and I've said a lot that all the other issues are intertwined if you're invalid, and it goes through even to missing and murdered Indigenous women, because that's part of the problem. We can't get the proper investigations when women and men and children, we can't get the proper investigations when people, Native people go missing. And it's because you're not seen as valid. You're seen as something in the past or something not worthy of, spending the time on. So, it's just very important that these school districts understand that even if they if they only have one Native child, if they don't have any Native children in the school district, that they must represent and protect all minorities, all children, because they are educating children, and these kids go off into the world, and it harms the non-Native children to be prejudiced, is what it is they're teaching them to be prejudiced, and these kids end up with a false sense of superiority, and the Native kids end up with a false sense of inferiority. When we go into school districts and we try to help community members to change or to educate the community, of course, we come up against a lot of backlash. And we hear we hear them saying, well, we're doing this out of honor. We're using these mascots to honor Native people. But what ends up happening is we end up having the same community members tell us that they don't want to hear what we have to say, and that they know what's best for us. And so how can you say that you are honoring people when you are actually silencing those very people that you claim to be honoring? In my school district in the Neshaminy, it has gotten so bad that I started this this battle with them in 2012, and they have spent approximately $450,000 at this point to keep their mascot tree, and it doesn't, at this point, it doesn't even matter that Washington football team has changed their name, and Cleveland is looking at changing their name, and since George Floyd's murder, so many schools have changed. It's amazing that there's so much more attention on it, and I really thought that in the Neshaminy that they would also see that they also need to pay attention to this, and they need to change. One of the things that I heard a lot with the community members was that when Washington, if the name's good enough for the capital of our country, then it's good enough for us. And when they change, then we will talk about changing. And after Washington changed, I thought for sure that, it would be a conversation. And I was like, well, what now? What are you going to do now? And crickets, they're not talking about it. We went through a whole, I filed the complaint in 2013 with the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission against the school district. And, I was involved in that complaint for a few years. And in those years, 2 times they ruled against the school district, and the school district appealed the ruling. When it got to 4 years down the road, when my son at that point had become a senior, and there was so much hate and vitriol, we had people threatening to come to our home. We had threatening phone calls. And my son, at the point that he was a senior, I was concerned that, his whole high school career, he had to deal with this. And I talked to the Human Relations Commission, and I said, I don't know what to do, because, you're doing it to protect children, but at the same time, you're actually putting your own child in the limelight and in harm's way. So I felt bad that I was actually maybe harming my child. And the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission felt that it was important enough that they actually would take over as complainant. So it was now the state against the Chamonix School District. So we did end up going to a hearing, which took a week, and then it went to a ruling, and they came up with a crazy ruling, and the school district was allowed to keep the word, but they had to do away with the imagery, which was ridiculous. But the school district has appealed the complaint, or appealed the ruling. So we are at this point waiting to find out what's going on with the appeal. And I did recently put in a request to know, to find out how much to this date has been spent on this. It's probably going on $500,000. And I'm just doing anything that I can at this point to maybe bypass the school board or put some pressure on the school board. And in the meantime, working on other issues with other school districts, any events I can go to, recognize missing and murdered Indigenous women and people, any other, human rights issues for minorities that I can be involved in. It's really made me more aware. And, as a child, I felt this, like I didn't fit in, and people would say things, what are you? And, they didn't recognize me, as a Native child, and they would say, awful things to me because of the way I looked. And I think that these things happening to me put this feeling in me that now as an adult, I don't want those things to happen to other, to children, because I know how that feels. So, having all that, pushing me along, and then as an adult, as a woman, having some abuse on my job where I was attacked and things were said to me, about being a Native woman, and that was the reason, that was part of the reason that I was treated the way I was. It pushed me along, and as I got older, I realized I had to speak up. And it's funny that we have, or it's wonderful that we have these young women coming in, and here I am, older, and finding my my footing here, and having the support, and just feeling like I have a family here, and we all support one another. So it's been quite a ride, and I'm just thrilled when I was asked to be co-director of AIM Woodlands Territory. I feel like now I can give back. I just feel like it's such an important role, and knowing that how much AIM has done, to know that I can be part of that and part of history, just really is an honor. So Ramona, I'm not sure how much time I have. I don't want to cut into anybody.
You're good. Thank you. Nyawa, Donna. I would like to introduce our next guest. Our next guest on our panel is Rachel Thunder, who is the director of the American Indian True People of Indiana and Kentucky Support Group. Rachel, would you share with us a little bit about yourself and how you came to serve the American Indian movement?
Tanse, Ginanaskamotan, Nanaskamon, Rachel Thunder, Nasi Yegasan, Upsis, Nanahiawan. Hello, and thank you. I thank all of you for having me on here on this Native Roots radio show partnered with the Grand Governing Council, and to be able to share this space with all of my fellow AIM sister warriors. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit here. I am the daughter of Ashota Adams and Jim Thunder. From my mother's side, I am Sherwin Hawka, and from my father's side, I am Plains Cree and Woodland Cree, with most of my family coming from Wabasca, close to Slave Lake, Alberta, all through Alberta, and with some family in Saskatchewan. I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, and for my education, out of my love and respect and connection with our one Mother Earth, who we need to protect. You know, that's our true mother, our one mother, our mother that we all share. I chose to pursue a degree. I received my Bachelor of Science degree in Forest and Natural Resource Management from the University of Kentucky in 2015. And I immediately went into a master's program at the University of Kentucky. And just last year, I received my Master's of Science in Forest and Natural Resource Management, with my thesis research focusing on assessing the effects that logging practices have on the genetic diversity of white oak, which is a tree species that, you know, one of our relatives that is all over the eastern United States and part of Canada. I am, as Mona mentioned, I am the director of a support group, AIM, the True People of Indiana and Kentucky. We hold AIM here in Kentucky and Indiana. My involvement with AIM has always been organic and evolved in a natural way. When I was a little girl, my father taught culture and history at Heart of the Earth Survival School in Minneapolis. And I just wanted to say many thanks to Clyde Belcourt and Eddie Benton Benet for hiring my father and for all of the kindness that has been shown to my family, always by the American Indian Movement. A little bit about my father, because it does tie directly into the work here in Kentucky and how my involvement has evolved with this support group and the work here. Beginning in 1988 and arriving in 1989, my father ran 2,700 miles on a spiritual run to request the return of a sacred bundle, Chief Big Bear's bundle, from the New York City Museum of Natural History. And with him, he had the support and presence of many Plains Cree chiefs and headmen and many other Native American organizations across Canada. Him and my mother, among many, many other people, spent 4 months meeting with anthropologists at the museum there in New York City, the Museum of Natural History. But ultimately, the bundle still remains there to this day. So that happened in '89, and that was just a year, started in '88, and then the run ended in '89. So that was just 2 years before the enactment of NAGPRA, which is the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, and that became law in 1990. And the work of many, many people and the sacrifice of many, many people, including my family, have ultimately led to the enactment of NAGPRA. So today, much of our work here in Kentucky and Indiana, and also nationwide collaborations, evolve from that history, and also with a relationship that we have working with the Association on American Indian Affairs. And I'm going to acknowledge another sister warrior, Shannon O'Laughlin. She is the director of AAIA, and much of their work is providing consultation and guidance to nations and organizations, families and individuals concerning repatriation and the process of repatriation. So my work began with her this past spring, and we became a support group 5 months ago. So just a little bit about repatriation, in case those watching who don't know, or maybe you do know. Repatriation is the process of returning our ancestors and their sacred items. But repatriation is also more than that. Repatriation is healing. Repatriation is a form of decolonization. And repatriation is justice for just some of the wrongs that were done to our ancestors and our people. So in order to move forward and address healing from the effects of decolonization, I felt, and the support group felt, because it's not just me, you know, I'm just the director. I take guidance from our members and our council members here, that we needed to address and take care of the ancestors that were being held in institutions in Indiana and Kentucky. Because until we bring each of our relatives home, and you know, they are our relatives, those are our ancestors, that there's going to be a spiritual pain or a scar that's left unhealed and unaddressed. I would also like to say that repatriation, because it is a federal law, only federally recognized nations can repatriate through NAGPRA. So much of our work here, and I'm going to plug some of my sister warriors that sit on council for AIM-TPIC. Our secretary, Sarah, she is kind of spearheading the letters and communications with the federally recognized nations that called Kentucky and Indiana home for thousands of years before it was ever Kentucky and Indiana. You know, much of our work is to provide education on repatriation, on NAGPRA, and also some of the protocols and traditions that may have been lost or are specific to certain nations when it comes to speaking or addressing anything to do with the ancestors. It's a thing that we take very seriously. Everything that we do, as is with the American Indian movement, is through prayer. We move in a good way, in a positive way. And we just want to remove and keep away any negativity associated with the ancestors. A little bit of information on some of this, and many people don't know this. There are 122,000 ancestors nationwide that are still being held in institutions. When you break that down per state, California holds the most, mostly with UC Berkeley. But then when you look at a cumulative clumping or distribution of where most of the ancestors are being held, most of them are here in Kentucky and Indiana, with over 6,000 being in Kentucky alone. You know, 40% of what has been reported under NAGPRA, 40% of the ancestors have gone home, and that's all of the reporting since 1990. So 60% of our ancestors have not been returned since the enactment in 1990, over 30 years ago. And for that amount of time to pass, it's not acceptable. So, you know, repatriation is up to the nations on whether they choose to repatriate or not and how they choose to approach it. Us as AIM-TPIC sit here in Indiana and Kentucky only to provide support to them in any way that they, you know, wish or ask for. And we're here to serve the people. And part of serving the people is serving our ancestors and honoring them and honoring our sacred sites. Outside of our work for NAGPRA, we do another woman sister warrior that sits on council, our new council member. She's spearheading, her name is Angela. She's spearheading and has been spearheading for many years, getting Indigenous Peoples Day passed as a permanent resolution across Kentucky. 22 of the 24 city councils have done proclamations, and we are very positive and really feel good about moving forward with the governor here and how in his interest in passing a permanent resolution statewide, making Kentucky the 15th state, and the abolishment of Columbus Day. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I want to give all the other ladies time, but just a couple of other things really quick that AIM-TPIC feels passionate about and things that our work involve around is, you know, justice for Leonard Peltier and advocating for his clemency and release, because he has paid the ultimate sacrifice for all of us. And until Leonard is free, none of us are free. And with that, I want to say thank you to all of the strong women warriors that are here with me and that I get to share space with. I'm so honored. Thank you, Donna, for all of your work that we just heard about. Thank you, Mona, for your work involved as well. And thank you, Lisa, for all of your work, past and present, and to come. So with that, I say hey, hey, and many blessings to all.
Miigwech, Rachel, and miigwech, Donna, for your beautiful words. So the next, we're going to have the water song, a water song, and it is being sung by a sister, Doreen Day, and her mother was one of the founding mothers of AIM in St. Paul, along with my mother. And this song, this story is that her and her grandson were walking around the lake, and he knew that if we talk or pray to the water, that it will heal, that, and the water has, as an entity, can receive that. And so he said, can we sing? So they made this song. And so this is an honor. As women, as life carriers, we have that birth water, that life water that we carry. And so we wanted to be sure to have the water song and honor the water during this show. So here's the water song.
Nime kisage go kimi kwechwe go kijwe go Nime kisage Quis jouer l'amigo. Nime kisagego. Kimi kwechawe nimigo. Quis jouer l'amigo. Nime kisagego. Kimi kwechawe nimigo. Quis jouer l'amigo.
So that song was sung by Doreen Day, and you could hear the beautiful water in the background. And the translation is "Water, we respect you. Water, we thank you. And water, we love you." So back to you, Mona. Yeah, mute.
Thank you. I was saying that, Lisa, you and Rachel both have very powerful words and very much, Nyawako. I want to say also that for this show, we are honored to have Canadian First Nations representation as well. Suzanne Smoke is the director of the Sanctioned Chapter, Southern Ontario American Indian Movement, and also sits on the Grand Governing Council. Suzanne, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your chapter, and the work you are doing to serve your community during the pandemic.
Bonjour, I'm really honored to be here with some powerful, magnificent Koyok. And yes, I sit with the Sanctioned Chapter. I'm the president of AIM Southern Ontario. We're newly sanctioned. I work in domestic violence, sexual assault, and anti-human trafficking. Here in Canada, we know that our sisters make up over 51% of all traffic victims. And for me, I know that there's gaps in services for Indigenous women, seeking services, seeking supports, and we know that there's bias and all kinds of barriers and obstacles to service for Indigenous women. So my role in community is really centered around that violence and stopping the violence against Indigenous women. I work with a sexual assault center, and I also work in mental wellness. I work with the Tebu Community Center that supports the Indigenous community as well as the Afro-Indigenous community. Mental wellness to me is about providing opportunities for ceremony, providing opportunities for culture, land-based teachings, and of course with this great sickness that's upon us right now, we know that unbalance is in our communities right now, and our young people are really, really suffering. I'm really honored to have a wonderful board that sits on AIM Southern Ontario. My daughter, Cedar Smoke Okamagishikokwe, has spent her whole life, beside my skirt, always watching and always seeing that we have to look after our sisters, that we have to look after one another. And as women, we are water carriers. We carry that sacred water and we carry that new life. And before that new life comes to the earth, that water comes first. So our role and responsibility as women is to protect that water. And that means protecting our sisters as well. So it's really, really important for me to lead the way for my daughter to know that she's 12 times more likely to become a victim of violence here in my country, in our sovereign territory. Tells me that there's gaps in services, that there's something really, really wrong with this settler nation system that's built. And, we hear in Canada that there are caretakers. And, I think that they failed miserably. And I know that we have to take the lead, and it has to be Indigenous-based, culturally safe, culturally appropriate methods of healing, especially from traumas like sexual assault and domestic violence. Also, the women who've been trafficked. We need to have, one of my beautiful sisters talked about repatriation for our ancestors. We also need that repatriation for those that have been hurt by this colonial system. We need repatriation for those that are lost in the foster care and the 60 scoop. Also, the residential school survivors. We play a role in that. Every year there's the Indian Residential School Gathering, and we go and we offer our supports as counselors in sexual assault, but also culture-based, again, teachings. We set up our booth and we provide services, and we do one-on-one counseling. We do group work with different people within the community. And most recently, we have been working with male survivors of sexual assault. And we know that through the trauma of residential school, that there was a large, I think 150,000 children within Canada were part of that residential school system. And there are relatives, there are aunties, there are uncles, there are grandparents and our parents, our sisters and our brothers. And we really, really have to do something to break those cycles of violence and break that intergenerational trauma that's happening. So that's the work that we do. I have tremendous leadership within our board. Two of our members, Bree Olson and Nanook, do Indigenous harm reduction on the streets since the COVID pandemic hit. Right from the beginning, they were on the streets, making sure that everybody had what they needed based in harm reduction. They do COVID testing. They've initiated COVID testing online, on the streets for Indigenous people specific, because it's very, very difficult for people to get tested. They've been working tirelessly within the health field for vaccinations within the community. Nanook is one of the most compassionate people I know, who has taught me a lot about working with our houseless community. And when we're working with Indigenous people that are out on the streets, that are without a home, without a house, the land is their home. And right now within our territories, the police are coming in and breaking up our houseless encampments. But for Indigenous people, the land is their home. And so based on that, we've been preparing the people that are in the encampments. Bree and Nanook are providing coats, winter jackets, things like that, to get them through these winter months. But also really integrating sovereignty into that space, and taking up those spaces that we do live on the land, that the land is our home. And just because we don't have housing doesn't mean that we don't have our home. And so living off the land for our houseless community, making sure that they have those supports. One of the other main focuses that we do is food sovereignty within our communities. Absolutely. We provide all traditional foods. We work with our local hunters, our fishermen. In the far north, we purchase from some of our local butchers, and we provide wonderful traditional foods and meals to the houseless encampments. We're serving up moose stew and venison shepherd's pie and wild rice casserole. And not only are we feeding them, but we're feeding their spirits. And we're feeding them with those traditional foods from their homelands. And it's really, really important that we honor them and we treat them with dignity. And, they may be houseless and they may have gone through some rough times, but we love them and we cherish them because they're our brothers and sisters, and we don't know their story and we don't know what they've been through. But the history of colonization in our communities has really, really done some damage to so many in our communities, and we have to be there to lift them up, and we have to be there to support them. And so that's through Dash Mawan Bamadsajin, which is We Feed the People. So that's with Lori Hermanston, who's just a wonderful sister, old school cook who's, we're serving bone broth soup to the elders. And just even this summer, during this time, a group of beautiful youth from Council Fire and Toronto Youth, Takaranto Youth, we all came together under the leadership of Lisa Ojig, and Wigwamin is an elders home in the heart of downtown Toronto. And when this pandemic hit, there was again a lot of that imbalance and uncertainty and fear for our elders and keeping them safe. So every Thursday we would gather and we would dance for them and we would honor them, and we would stand outside in our full regalia with our dance and our drums and our beautiful traditional foods, gigo, whitefish from Batchewana Bay, moose, deer, all kinds of beautiful traditional foods. And the elders would come and sit out on their balconies, and we would go to the four corners of the building every week, and just to honor them and tell them that they're safe and that we'll keep them safe and that we'll provide for them. So that has turned into almost like a full-time position as well. So we're still continuing that food sovereignty program for the elders at Wigwamin, and most recently reaching out to the youth of Toronto and providing those meals. I know that large contingency of my helpers went out providing food in the community. Unfortunately, the COVID rates are rising in the Indigenous community in Toronto. So we want to make sure that our shut-ins and the people that are isolating are also safe and that they're well fed and that they have this beautiful sovereign food. So those are the things that we have been working on within the Toronto Southern Ontario community. Also, my training and teaching that I'm working with, I'm learning about psychotherapy for the male survivors, and I'm also working on echo training with Skabe Makwa, which is the new Indigenous mental wellness hospital that's located in Toronto. So I've been doing training programs with them. You know, knowledge is power. And, you know, we have a really horrible history and legacy of the residential schools, you know, all of this trauma through foster care. What can we do? And so for me, it's about learning and balancing both those Western medicines and our traditional medicines. And it's really wonderful to be walking into a room or in a Zoom room, and there's doctors and there's therapists and there's social workers, and there's also pipe carriers and lodge keepers and medicine people. And it's incredible to see all of us as Indigenous coming together in both those Western and traditional to be able to work together respectfully, with one not outbalancing the other. So we all come together and, you know, we work with our clients to provide the best of both those worlds and make sure that we are healing them in every facet that we can. And so that's the work that I do. And I'm just really proud to be able to stand with my daughter, Ogamaki Shikokwe Cedar Smoke. You know, she doesn't fall far from the tree. She's most recently been at the front and forefront working with Black Lives Matter and the American Indian Movement Southern Ontario in marches and speaking for the other nations. She's out on the streets doing that work also with youth. We were just talking about doing a live show about that mental wellness piece and what can we do to provide for our youth. She's there to help me with the food box programs every year. We do a Nishmas program where we provide toys and things for children during the winter solstice. And it's always just about being a helper. What can we do? You know, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution within our territories? So I'm really honored to be part of the AIM Grand Governing Council, as well as to have my sanctioned chapter here in Southern Ontario. And people have asked me, you know, you're in Canada, this is the American Indian Movement. And I'm saying those borders crossed us. We didn't cross any borders. And, you know, that's a settler colonial thought process. We are all Turtle Island. We are all Indigenous. And there's strength in numbers. And there's some incredible work that's happening all across Turtle Island. And I think through the anti-human trafficking work that we're doing is we're trying to build those safety networks all across Turtle Island so that when our sisters are reaching out for help, that I can call out to my sisters in Pennsylvania or Duluth or wherever it is and say, you know, we have a sister and we need supports, and that those people are going to be there. And it's going to be incredible that we can create those safety networks across Turtle Island, because it's going to be us as Indigenous that are going to be looking after ourselves. I'm not relying on any federal government program to look after us because they failed miserably all these years. Here in Canada, we have over 5,000 missing and murdered Indigenous women in our country. Knowing that Cedar and the women and the people on my board are at risk 12 times more likely of violence, we have a lot of work to do in our communities. And it's an honor to do this work, and honored to be sitting here with all my sisters as well. Miigwech.
Suzanne, you're very eloquent and a very, very busy woman, I see. But I must say that when I come and visit you, I want some of that food you were talking about. You were
Absolutely
making me a bit hungry. It sounded very good.
Yeah, that was in the comments too.
Oh.
People were saying food.
We'll try and bring some of that to Sundance for sure. If we can.
For sure.
Okay, well, so our final guest panel, the final panel of guests that we have this evening is Nellie Maya Turtle Heart Legaspi. And I hope I said your name correctly. Nellie is the director of the American Indian Movement Orange County, California support group. Nellie, tell us about yourself and your work with the people of your territory.
Oh, you mean our county? Hey, Tuxka to everyone. We are a newborn sanctioned support group. We are 7 days old. So before I talk about myself, I talk about the individuals that agreed to come on this journey with me. And that is my assistant director, Jessica Coghill, our recording secretary, Iveen Rubidoux, our treasurer, Adam Loya, and our security director, Irene Gonzalez. I speak about them because I could not do this without them. And I thank Dave Ortiz for the support in this process. This is not something that is taken on lightly. It goes back over 30 years. I've been a part of AIM and active in one way or another since I was a teenager and then in my 20s with Fern Matthias, who rests in peace. And I say her name in a good way because she inspired me and motivated me and encouraged me. And she helped me to speak out. Sadly, that didn't last, but as far as me being able to speak out, and then when we lost her and she walked on, it hurt us. And if anybody knows anything about California, it's a huge state. But with over 109 tribes that are federally recognized right now, and 78 still trying to get recognized, there's just so much on that it is not possible for one chapter to take care of everything or one support group. So we are here dedicated to Orange County and to any other county that calls upon us. Since I have not been in a chapter, AIM, you're always AIM, so that doesn't change. I've been active in the community where I live in Santa Ana with Santa Ana Unidos, which works with children and the youth, trying to keep them out of prison, dropping out of school. Our past director, Jonathan Ryan Hernandez, recently got elected as city council. He is the youngest member. He's 28 years old, and he is part Native, and he seeks to help us get a spot of land in the city and the county for the Native people of the area, which we have just a few, the Wanyanyo, the Gabrielino Tongva, the Kish, Hashiman, that I know of that are in Orange County. But there are many more. We have Maidu, we have the Chumash. There's just so many. But it's just in our area, we want to be able to have a spot of land where we can have powwow, we can have gatherings, we can have classes. To me, it's a service to the people. It's not about who I am per se. It's about what can we do to help the people of our community. So we seek not only to help Native people, Indigenous people, but all people of color and our woke folks, our allies, because we've shown that when we come together, so we're so much stronger. Like I talked to the ladies last night, and I used the motion that I used when I spoke on Juneteenth last year with Black Oaks. That's another group that I support, and we'll be partnering as much as we can to help them if we need, they need our help. We talked about how, divided, we're not as strong as when we come together. And we talked about being united in power and strength and unity. And last night we talked about the women saying that, we're going to sister up, because that's one of my terms that, don't just talk about it, but sister up, like support your fellow women and our men. I'm also a survivor of domestic violence. And in that, and when I say survivor, it's like a little over 2 years. When I say that, I take it with the full strength that I've given myself back. I've taken my power back. And I don't hold no other man responsible for what happened to me but that man. Not all men are bad, just like not all women are bad. So for me, this road is not just about one topic. It's about how are we going to bring all of our people, all of our Native people in California especially, together. How can we unite with each other? Because if we can all come together, we have so much strength. We can accomplish just about anything. And if you really think about it, what the once dominant culture wants us to do is to be fighting with each other. Because if you can envision all nations, I'll just talk about California. If all 100 and what is it, 80 something, almost 190 tribes came together for one purpose, to insert our every area of our communities, there will be a huge change. It's who's better, who's got more, who's got less. It's about coming together. And for me, anybody that knows me personally knows that that's what I'm about. So when I talk about what I do, I don't really say it's what I do, it's what I'm a part of. It's like one of our partners from the Black OC, Farron Kids, says, this is not a moment, this is a movement. This is something that's going to keep going, which the American movement, Indian movement has evolved. It's no longer just one thing, it's many things, and it's going to keep blossoming. And that's how I see it here in Orange County, in California. We are in a very little county, not a huge population. Used to be red, now it's blue, but we still have battles that we have to fight. And right now, COVID is hitting Santa Ana, Anaheim, some of the smaller cities hard, and the resources aren't there. We have families of all ethnicities losing their homes. So for me, what I learned from Vern that touched my heart is when you invite those to your home, or people come to your home for help, you don't just pick one group to help. You don't pick your favorite uncle, your favorite auntie. You help everybody that's in your home. When we go to gatherings and we go to powwows, or we go to any kind of gathering that you can think of that Native and other people would have, you don't just pay attention to just one person in your gathering. You pay attention to everyone and let them feel welcome. That is my philosophy. That is how I see things. This is not a competition. This is not who's this and who's that and who's that. I don't walk that way. What I do for a living, I keep separate from what I do for the community, mostly because I am in Orange County. But anybody that knows me knows that it's about service to the people, and it's not what I want, it's what they want. And they ask us to come, we will come. We will come to help, but we do not go where we're not invited. Just like you wouldn't go to somebody's house without being invited and just show up and say, hey, feed me. Do that. So being that we're a newly sanctioned support group, we do have an agenda. Our assistant director plans to work in collaboration with natives in her area, which is Yorba District, to help initiate curriculum for Native American studies for November, for National Native American Month, to change the narrative for what the kids are being taught. Eileen Rubidoux, her heartfelt project is going to be ICWA, because Orange County Social Services no longer has an ICWA department. So that is something that's much needed, and it takes more than one person to achieve this. So she will be seeking like-minded men and women that want to work with her. Adam is a council member with one of the Tongva bands, and he will be working to help get us all united, get everybody to. And then Irene Gonzalez, she actually lives in Los Angeles County, and hold your breath, everybody. She's a probation officer, and she's also from Rancheria here in California. She is all about helping those who are on probation or parole be successful, and to be able to get off that situation and evolve into a better way. She's not about, dragging them down. Now, she's tiny, and some folks might think can't handle hers, but she's really good. We met with the union. I'm also a union member, and we're organizers, and she's a firecracker. So her philosophy is trying to just help people be successful, and so we think that it's a protective, because we can show that not everybody who's involved in law enforcement is bad. A lot of them have good hearts and come in a good way, and a lot of them are Native. So we're trying to build a a partnership. We're trying to build if you could imagine, where people can respect each other and come to one common goal of service to the people. And so for First Nations people here in Orange County, and in all Indigenous people and people of color, we seek to partner up and help make this a better place. So I guess that's the most I could say without sounding too boisterous. I'm just very proud of my executive board. We're looking for our members. We will be having my son and my daughter-in-law will be involved, because my oldest son, Johnny, he little road dog, and so he went to all the different powwows and protests, and he got to see me walk along with the janitors protest that we did in downtown Los Angeles a very long time ago. Jessica and I worked closely with when my cousin Jim Lapointe was around, when we had to do different immigration reform marches. We marched with the unions. We did everything you can think about here, but it was always about the people. It wasn't about us as individuals. It was about rising up and raising others up to where they needed to be. So those folks in California County, if you're interested and like-minded, you're more than welcome to come and check us out. But like I said, we're new, so I think we're just at the rolling over on our tummy by ourselves stage right now. So that's about it.
Thank you. You have beautiful words, and you're at the very beginning of everything, but you've got a lot going on, and I think you guys are doing some great work, and you've got a great team, especially a great team of women. Your group is primarily women with one man within your officers, and you guys are great. Now we do have a little bit of time left before we wrap things up. So I had a couple of questions here that I did want to ask. And this first question I would like to address to Lisa. So, the women of AIM are very happy to see that you have been promoted to the executive director of the National American Indian Movement. You are our highest ranking female leader. And I was just wanting to ask, how you're adapting to the change in your role, and where you see AIM going in the future.
Miigwech, for that question. Yeah, I think that I was like in tears, knocked off my feet, and I had when I was asked personally, and then we did the announcement. We had Native Roots Radio, Miigwech, Robert, and Ogima for helping us to launch that. But yeah, I was like totally shocked, but wasn't totally surprised. I kind of, Uncle was saying, "Oh yeah, you do this and do that." He's telling me to do, like, you need to take care of this and you need to take care of that. And this has like been over the last 5 or 10 years. So when the transition took place, it happened the day before George Floyd was killed. And so for Frank and I, we ended up moccasins on the ground running. Full speed ahead, meeting, calling on our community to pull back out AIM Patrol, our local AIM people, and all the community that joined us to protect our community. We have a corridor that we call our Native corridor. It's the heart of our community, and with many businesses and organizations, and with all the burnings, and after we lost Miigwech Communications early on. So like right out of the chutes, we lost Miigwech because they're like less than a block away from that 3rd precinct and right in the heart of the front lines there. And so we held our ground, and so that was first and foremost. It was immediate action as we took our first days into our leadership roles, but it's not really any different than what we've been doing over the years. It's just working with people, um, just helping to organize people and organizing a system so that people can do what they need to do to keep our communities safe. And I think that's kind of my philosophy throughout life, is just helping to organize and put things in place so people can do what they do and have that space and support and um, energy, or whatever it is that we need to connect them and networks so people can do the work that is passionate to them. For me, early on, as a young woman, as a young mother, my son said, "Mom, why are they making fun of us?" We were watching the Atlanta Braves team in a playoff, and asked he was like, "Mom, I get in trouble if I make fun of people like that." We were watching them do the tomahawk chop and the woo on TV and all that. And I said, "Yeah, you're right." And he says, "Well, are we going to do something about it?" Because we had just come off a protest. We were protesting Disney on Ice, Kenneth Fell production of Peter Pan, where they had the Indians skating around, going to burn somebody, So we did this little protest at the stadium here for that. And then, so my son says, "Well, are we going to protest about that?" And he was 9 or 10 years old. And so we went to Dawn and Frank Pero's wedding dinner, and they were talking about the upcoming World Series, that what if it's the Twins? They're going to play here, and who's going to go, da 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 da. And did you see this team, and who's coming out? And I just said, "Hey, Uncle, you know what Jake said about that?" And he'll probably kill me for saying his name, my son. But he said, and Vernon looks at me and he goes, "What did Jake say, my girl?" And I said, "He wants to know why we're letting him make fun of us, and aren't we gonna do something about it?" He didn't like the tomahawk chop and the war whooping and the face paint. And Vernon was taking a bite, and when I said that, he just stopped. He looked at me, let go of his fork just fell. He heard a clang, and so everybody turns and looks, and he said, "My girl, he's right. And when our children start asking those questions, when our children want to do something, then we need to step up and we need to do something. We need to support them." So he said, "You organize that and I'll be there. I promise you, I will help you." So we organized that first protest march here in Minneapolis against the Atlanta team when they came to play for the World Series. So, it's that kind of support, that kind of encouragement, that I was raised with, and that I hope that I continue to, work with that methodology, that we support each other and we raise each other up. I don't see myself as the leader, but I get stuck with counting the receipts, I guess you can say, keeping track of the paper trail. But and one thing that I was reminded today earlier that I talked about at the beginning, about the spiritual foundation, I was reminded by a member of Philip Deer's family, and Philip was one of our first spiritual leaders and had beautiful things to say. And his words about bringing our children home to our traditions, that is like my own life philosophy. And so I tell people, today's AIM, we might not always have to be on the streets, but we will if we have to. We also, looking at that, like Suzanne was saying, food sovereignty, how important that is for our people. It's our spiritual foundation. We have foods that are spiritual. It honors, and it is a part of that relationship between us and Mother Earth. Something as simple as eating. So we remember that we are a spiritual foundation, and that our work is not just protesting and, yes, we'll do that. But our work is also, what is it that we can do to take the teachings of our ancestors and move them into the future? And that is what I hope that AIM will continue that path as well. And that's what I hope I can encourage people. So I did see on there, a woman was asking about how can I become a woman of AIM, and I just like got all proud and choked up, and I was glad I was on mute because I was all choked up. But and I encourage you, if you feel like you want to become a part of AIM, get a hold of us at the national office. We'll connect you with somebody that's in your area. And we will, and if there's nobody in your area, then we'll help you to do what it is that you want to do. And you heard all of these women. The work is not all just one single trail. There's many paths here that are being worked on across Mother Earth, across Turtle Island. So I hope that answered.
Yes, very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate your taking the time with that. We had a lot of fun this past week. This group of ladies, we had a chance to kind of get to know each other and have some laughs and form some friendships. And I just wanted to thank everybody, for being a part of this. Now across Turtle Island, our people fight battles every day, for our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Different territories have different needs, and we as women are a unifying force. And we vow to do the best we can to serve the people of our territories and to assist other chapters when we can. As long as we are viewed as merciless Indian savages, AIM will continue until all men are treated equal. We do have the Women's Warrior song that we would like to listen to before we have our final prayer. That was adorable. Now, before Lisa gives the final prayer, I would like to have some thanks. I would like to, like I said, thank the panel of guests, and all the hard work that you guys helped, in putting this together this week. I think you guys all did a great job. I would like to thank the Native Roots Radio Network for producing the show for us, and our audience for being here to listen to us with open hearts and open minds. And I especially would like to thank the Executive Grand Governing Council of the American Indian Movement for their support in us putting this show together. And we hope to make this an ongoing series that you'll see on occasion, where we can feature more of our women, because we are just a handful of women warriors who are working with the American Indian Movement. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I would like to. Go ahead. Everyone else can go before me. Go ahead, Rachel.
I'll just say thank you again. Thank you to the GGC for asking me to come on and asking all of these sister warriors to come on. I would also like to say again that, it's as a spiritual movement, it's important that we honor our ancestors, we protect our ancestors, our sacred sites, our traditions, our ceremonies, and we keep them and we hold them strong for our next generations. And it's not just all women warriors. There's a balance between the masculine and the feminine, and if we can come together and unite like we are, we're going to be really, really strong. It's going to be a really, really strong movement moving forward, and I'm honored to be a part of this show and the American Indian movement moving forward into the future. So with that, thank you, and hey, hey.
Suzanne?
Yeah, I'd just like to finish the evening. Just want to ask everyone to offer your prayers and your sema, raise your chanupas. This great sickness is really affecting our families and our relatives everywhere, all across Turtle Island and all across the world. And we have to take care of each other and put our intent out there for that good, healthy life. So prayers to everyone, prayers to these beautiful, magnificent Kweyok, and to the Grand Governing Council and to all of the Aimsters all across Turtle Island that are doing that work. I say Chimigwech, honored Miigwech.
Donna?
I want to say thank you to the GGC and thank you to all my sisters here that have joined us tonight. And just that I'm just so proud to be in the presence of such great women. And it's just so important that we as the carriers of life have our say in this world today. And that I think that because we carry life, that we have, the ability to make decisions and to protect that life. And I really appreciate being a part of this this presentation tonight. And thank you to the radio show.
And
Nellie.
I will add that in that I want to thank you. I will thank the GGC. I want to thank them very much for giving me the honor. It is a huge responsibility. I want to speak to my relatives here who I am on their home. I'm Chiricahua and Oglala, so this is their home, the Waneno, the Tongva, the Gabarino Kitch, every tribe in this area. I truly believe that if we come to this in a way, we can really make a difference out here in Orange County and ultimately branch off into the directions of California. I guess that's a high vision I have, but I believe in it. Like I said, I've been a part of AIM so a teenager, and I'm gonna be 58 in a couple of months. So it's been a long time, and it's not something that I take lightly because it's for our ancestors and it's for the future, which are the young ones. And we got to raise them up and let them take that baton on and carry on for us. That's what I see this role. So I want to speak to those individuals watching that are here in our area and Turtle Island, a country that are not limited to your borders, to your much blood quantum you have, or if federally or state recognized. You are who you are, and walk proud with that, and know that you have a home. AIM is a spiritual society, a spiritual movement, and when you feel it call, you answer the call. And that's what I feel, that things happen for a reason when they're supposed to happen, and that's where we are here too. So thank you, Dr. Ska. And I wish everybody
Oh, miigwech, everybody. Miigwech per beautiful sisters. And again to Robert and Ogima. And Ramona, you did great. Thank you for
yes, you
co-hosting.
did.
We threw you out there and you just like took it. And you know, I was just thinking about how much time do we have? 8. So I was just thinking about you know, one of the comments was said, you know, from Anthony Stately, and he was talking about how they used to meet in his house, you know, it was his house and my house. That all these meetings, like during the Wounded Knee trials or whatever, in my house was the lunch house and the backup meeting house, and we had the most surveillance and all of that. But I don't want to scare anybody who's wanting to cover the scary stories. But, you know, and
My kids remember those days.
yeah, recognizing his mother was one of my mentors, and I would say, I don't know about that. What do you think? And she'd say, just do it. You can do it. You know, you can do this. And she really did give us a lot of, she was very empowering for the young women and for the community. And so at one point, our AIM office, we had a building and we called it the Elaine Stately Peacemakers Center in South Minneapolis, you know, honoring Elaine Stately. And there's so many other women warriors that, you know, we can mention. And I would hate to start mentioning and forget some. But so I want to close tonight with a thank you song. And again, I'll do the thank you song and then we'll close out with the AIM song afterwards again. And, you know, there's just so much work, and this isn't just, you know, coming from headquarters here. This is not the only chapters out here. These ladies, these sisters, there's other chapters as well. And so we'll be featuring these chapters, and we'll be using this time on the radio to promote the work that's happening across Turtle Island. You know, right now we're fighting in our homelands here in Minnesota. We're battling Line 3. And if you go to the Stop Line 3 website, they have a website. They also have a Line 3 Facebook page as well. And you can see the live feeds on there. And you can see they have the machines on my Facebook page. I have videos of the machines. You know, I lived up there. You can hear them in the background. It was right after a guy had died the day before. And, you know, if I remember correctly, OSHA standards, you know, they're supposed to stop the guidelines. They're supposed to stop their doings for an investigation, but they didn't stop. You know, they just kept on going. So, you know, there's a lot of work that's happening and issues across the country. You know, Leonard Peltier is another one. You know, clemency, we want, Leonard Peltier, we want freedom for Leonard Peltier. You know, so we need to continue to raise our voices and to continue to support each other's work. Oh, and then we're also looking at a pipeline in Pipestone, Minnesota that cuts across the northern edge of the Pipestone Monument there. And if there's a leak because of the lay of the land, the oil, that pipeline at 73 years old, if that pipeline leaks, it's going to flow right into our sacred stone. So that's another fight on the horizon. So again, feel free to be in touch with us on our Facebook page. Our email is aimggcouncil@gmail.com. So yeah, join in. We're here, and I'm just gonna sing this short thank you song. Then we'll go into this AIM song, and we say miigwech to everybody. Amigato and Amigato and Miigwech. Now the AIM song.